Let's get sweaty.
Hey guys, welcome to another Shenmue Dojo video. This is another character exploration video, and today I'm going to be looking at Xiuying Hong and what her story is, what her backstory is, and where she may sort of end up in the whole Shenmue story as it goes. So let's dive in. Bit of background first. Xiuying Hong, also known as Li Xiaotao, is, in my opinion, one of the Shenmue characters who has a lot to offer the story going forward. She's 26/27, depending on when you come across her in game. I think canon-wise she's 27, but don't quote me on that. She's already a martial arts master with her abilities far beyond Ryo's when they meet. Very stoic in nature and very much to the point, but her wisdom is something that is to be absolutely admired. When Ryo first comes across her, he prejudges her. He looks at her and goes, you can't possibly, why would you even be a martial arts master? But then quickly shows that her abilities are far beyond his by kicking his ass in a sparring match. It's very symbolic, her story and meeting Ryo, because it brings her past to the forefront of her life once again. When she was a child, her and her brother's parents, Xiuying, who's her brother, were killed, and it's alleged that the Qi men know who did this. Obviously, Xiuying moves off to go and find out what happened. There's a cutscene in Shenmue 2 where you quite clearly see him leaving, and Xiuying is distressed at this. And he left her half of the yin and yang pendant, which is later given to Ryo. Now, keep that in mind for the future story. Going sort of further on, much beyond, her name is well known in China. One thing, or more than Li Xiaotao name than anything else, is in Shenmue 3 when Ryo is talking to Grandmaster Bei about the reverse body check for the first time. He asks Ryo, where did you learn this Baji Quan stuff? Who taught you? And Ryo mentions the name Li Xiaotao, and Grandmaster Bei instantly sort of goes, I recognise that name. So she's well known, well respected through China for her martial arts abilities. She's very much trying to guide Ryo away from his vengeance in this sort of evil path, obviously fueled by the fact of what she seems to think happened to her brother. Obviously she's trying to teach him patience, to keep his mind as clear as a polished mirror. And to a point she does that quite well. Obviously he learns the counter elbow assault, defeating Dol Neo. But as we know, and as the story's gone on, his mind still isn't right. He can't consistently execute his martial arts skill, his kung fu, in order to be able to beat better martial artists or identify how to beat them. He's very much half-cooked, and he's considered lacking kung fu. This is a big theme through Shenmue 2 and in Shenmue 3 as well. He is told consistently his kung fu is lacking. She obviously wants to help him, but is very much torn because of the journey of vengeance that Ryo is embarking on. And there's some sort of little side points here. And the anime, she sort of half alludes to some of that a little bit more. Obviously, with the anime and Shenmue 2, you get the scene with her with the photograph, crying. And there's little intimations about her brother leaving and what happened there. So that's a good segue into the future story for Xiuying. Xiuying, as we know, has a brother called Xiuying. And Xiuying will, in my view, have a part to play. If you look at the old Shenmue 2 comics that came on the Xbox version, where he's essentially sort of praying that his sister can exceed him as his abilities and as a person, and that she's obviously training one day to find him and potentially stop him if needs be. So that comic is sort of key in setting the scene, I think, of how things move forward with Xiuying and Xiuying. And we know Xiuying is an underling of Niaosun, so chances are, in Shenmue 4, hopefully, Xiuying will pop up. But that's sort of a side point to Xiuying's story here. More to the point here, if she's training, will she fight her brother? Is that what's fueling her? Will she have to stop him? Will we see that happen? Or will Ryo fight him and potentially be trained by them both? It's very much intimated in chapter tiles that Xiuying will catch up with Ryo. If you look at the last chapter tile from the GDC ones, you can see you've got sort of Ryo's sort of the main part of it. Then you have Shenhua and Xiuying stood just behind her. So it looks like she's going to catch up at some point. One thing I think really stands out there and probably motivates her a little bit here is when Ryo says to her at the end of Shenmue 2, or very close to the end of Shenmue 2, when he leaves Hong Kong to go to Guilin, he says, I know how your brother felt, and you too know how he felt. Which, for Ryo, that's really insightful. But you can see it clearly strikes a nerve for her here. And is it that nerve? Is it that doubt that gets her to follow Ryo on his quest? By all accounts, in Shenmue 3, it sounds like she hasn't left yet. Because when you phone home and you speak to Fang Mei in Hong Kong, Ryo says, please pass on my regards to Xiuying. And it's pretty much intimated that she's still there. But obviously, there's a long time in a video game. Things could happen, and then she could catch up to him. If you look at Chapter Tile 7, and this is where I think it's going to start feeding into Ryo's training arc, which is where I think Xiuying will play a part in this. You look at Chapter Tile 7, it's implied that it's the Cliff Temple, and it's theorised by James in the lore streams that he's been doing recently that this could be Luang, which has a Cliff Temple, and also has the Shaolin monk temples as well. And in the chapter card, you can quite clearly see that Ryo is, or Akira in that case, is fighting a Shaolin. Now, is that training? Is that fighting because they're linked to the Chi Men? Who knows? But there's that doubt element, whatever you want to call it there, that the training arc could be starting. Bottom left, and this is why I think Xiuying is imminent, is that you see a character with a strange resemblance to Xiuying, and if you compare it to the comics, you can probably see why. So as I say, is this the start of the training arc? We know Ryo is nowhere near Xiuying in terms of his ability, let alone Lan Di. So something's going to have to happen in order to get him to a point where he can hold his own against these better martial artists. So there's two motivations here potentially, even three if you really want to sort of drill this down. Number one is obviously she wants to keep Ryo on the right path. Number two, she wants to reunite with her brother. And number three, she potentially wants to help Ryo in his wider quest of not seeking vengeance, but maybe resolving the mystery around the mirrors. Not that she knows too much about this, but she could easily be drawn into it, I guess, as the story moves on. What will the trigger be? That's an interesting question. We know Ryo has the pendant, or like the half of the pendant that she got from Xiuying, and he's obviously taken that. So it says to me, and it makes sense from a story perspective, that Ryo will come across Xiuying, show the pendant, and there's that link. So that then is your introduction for Xiuying to essentially catch Ryo up, come across her brother, the training arc starts, and away we go. What she will be doing, I think, if she catches up to him, and I think she will, is imparting her wisdom, her skill, and more training, not just on his physical martial arts ability. Bearing in mind he's considered quite talented but raw, it's all about his mind, all about his mindset, how he approaches things. Because bear in mind, his actions so far, he's not thought about it, he's just done it, had no ramifications. There has to be a driver for his mindset to change, and she can support that potentially. So, closing thoughts. It's just a very short video here. My view is Xiuying is 99% coming back, certainly based on the story beats that we've seen, the character cards, the chapter cards. How she does it is still up for debate, but she is very much one of the most interesting characters in the series. She has a lot of depth to her behind that very sort of stoic impression you get of her, first and foremost, as the game moves on, especially Shenmue 2. Those layers come off. You see a lot more of her. The anime does a better job as well of really going into her character, so watch that if you haven't seen it already. And then potentially, hopefully in Shenmue 4, we get to see another layer to her character where actually she's sympathising with Ryo, potentially Xiuying, and comes together to help Ryo on his path and provide further guidance as he moves through his journey. But guys, what do you think about Xiuying coming back into the story? How do you think she's going to influence the story? And where do you think she'll go from here? Give us a comment below, guys. I may read out a few as we go. But don't forget, guys, give us a like, share, subscribe on the usual places. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere you can find us. And I'll be back with a video in the not too distant future. But for now, guys, take care. Have a good one. All the best.